Phil was kind of impressed by my ability to not go all off the rails with this one. But I got a kind of a theme going here. Maybe you've spotted it. It's, a little bit of dry humor, right? But in this instance, I'm like, the band's already so over the top that we might as well just cut and dry it, huh? And get right to it. On which note? Sinister, tier list, Jim Dempsey, Phil, but not before we start the show.
Say my name.
Jam, but
We just become best friends, yep.
I love the poorly educated.
Shake on it. Hi diddly hey, neighborino. Jim, you, Phil, let's get to it. Oh, I got the, we're gonna tier list Sinister today. And I hear what the wags in the back are saying. Say, Professor, what's with the ghetto threads? You're looking a little seedy today. Well, I just came from an LGBTQIA plus Black Lives Matter rally, and I didn't have a sign to wave, so I needed to fit in. Alright, let's do this shit. Sinister. A band that breaks about every rule I have for death metal bands. But still, I'm like, I love this band, I gotta say. Not everything that will be said here is gonna bring me joy, but, yeah. All's fair in love and war, correct? So, tier list up. You know how it goes, right? I'd be like, S tier, everyone should recognize. Not everyone does, but everyone should. A tier, I'd be like, that's fucking solid. I do come back to this album on the regular. Or at least, this is an album where, like, when I think of the ones that I'm going to be coming back to on regular, this one comes to mind, right? B tier, I'm like, I'm coming to this for mixtape purposes. I'm selecting songs out of this one. C tier, I'm like, something about this, and D tier, I'm like, I don't know, I really don't think we needed this, right? I feel like we could actually call D tier E for extraneous, but there you go. D for, Dear God. That said, cross the sticks. Have I mentioned that albums can be really harmed by sequencing mistakes? I really feel like if you were to say to me, name an album that you consider a really good example of an album almost fatally hurt by sequencing errors, I would just straight across pick. Oh, you know what? A great example, Cross the Sticks. You know what they should have done with that album? They should have opened it with Sacramental Carnage, dropped the intro, and then swapped out, Perennial Morning, like after Sacramental Carnage. And it would have been so much better. You know how you can find that out for yourself? Take the disc and record it to a mixtape, exactly like I just sequenced it, right? Cut out the intro and start it out with track 3, go back to track 2, and then jump up to track 4, and tell me if that does not make the album so much better. And someone should realize that. I'm just saying. Good cover art, though. I call this a B tier album. It's fucking catchy to me, but I also be like, I've spent so much more time with this than a lot of the other ones that I might be a little more casually dismissive of down the line. So, I don't want to hype it up too much to myself. Diabolical Summoning, absolute S tier album. Not for nothing does everybody talk about Diabolical Summoning, and a lot less people talk about Cross the Sticks, and then less than that talk about Hate when they talk about Sinister, right? Which, admittedly, doesn't happen enough. So here we are. Now, hate. What am I gonna say? Hate has no place here, bro. I'm like the yard sign, alright? Something about this album, and I think what it really is, firstly, I have this hypothesis that we can kind of check against the tier list when it's fully filled out. My hypothesis is that you can measure the quality of Sinister albums inverse proportionately to the amount and length of their intro, as evidenced by like what we've already got going here. Cross the Sticks has one and shouldn't, and sequencing is like kind of sketch on that. Diabolical Summoning, no intro, S tier album. Not as fond of the cover art on that one. Hate, there's like the intro, right? But Awaiting the Absu is, to me, the most inexplicable opener. I'd be like, why is this song 7 minutes long? And why is it a song that should have closed the album instead of opening the album? And like, why did Rebel Extravaganza walk by and like, holy shit about this opening, right? Like, but when I go back and I start from, the song after, I still be like, it doesn't quite ring as much. And I think about this is that everybody in Sinister is just like so indulgent with death metal. Everyone's so over the top, and they're like, we gotta have everything up in there. That you need like more guys in the band to, kind of balance things out. The more people like just trying to get as much in as possible is the more it all kind of levels out, and like that, right? And this one, I'd be like, it's just Odd and Bart and Mike, and there's nothing stopping. Cover art looks like total ass too. I'd be like, why are they coming out of his eyes? Like, what the fuck am I even looking at here? And I saw somebody casually aside at this record once by saying criminally underrated. I think it was in Metal Maniacs, and I'm like, nah, it's not criminally underrated, bro. It's not. I put this one down at C tier. Aggressive Measures, to me, I'd be like, I want to call that S tier. I really do. It's got, for me, what is the best 3-song 1, 2, 3 punch of just their most memorable and best written songs. I think tracks 3 through 5, but maybe 4 through 6. I have to go back and just... But at any rate, Into the Forgotten and Fake Redemption are definitely in there. I would slot this at A tier. And I feel like that's fair. And I think I'm settling on B tier for Creative Killings. That said, I got this theme going here where I'm like, Sinister is a band that just makes inscrutably poor choices on the regular. But Rachel, that was a really good choice. She fucking carried it. Quick anecdote. I was at a show once with a friend of mine, and we were talking to some other cats, and this one guy was saying, this was like right up in the lead up to Savage or Grace, and he says, I love Sinister. Like, I fucking love Sinister. But I heard they got a chick singer now, and I'm really discouraged to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear that kind of nonsense. So I don't know what to do about this. And we said to the guy, well, have you heard that last album? And he says, oh yeah, I own that one. It's a fantastic album. And we had the opportunity to tell him, like, oh, well, then that, and the pleasure of watching him perhaps reconsider a perspective of life in real time, just playing out on his face. So that was fun. I would say Savage or Grace ups the ante. And here I think this backs up the dictum I just outlined. 2 guitarists, plus, like Alex Paul, who's really been knocking out of the park here. This one goes up to A tier. And then Rachel's out, and that takes us to Afterburner. Somebody said about Hate, criminally underrated, and I'd be like, But Afterburner, criminally underrated. This is a fucking S tier album. Everyone should know. Like, I don't understand why I don't hear more about just how fucking amazing Afterburner is. So yeah, criminally underrated, absolute S tier album. But things are going to get a little hairier from here, I have to admit. So, me, I'm kind of sticking with it still. I'd be like, Silent Howling. I thought it was, holding up pretty well. But I'm slotting that at B tier. But then Legacy of Ashes, I'm like, I might have to go A tier on it. If not for just the dirty sound. Also, that's one of the better covers. But just the dirty ass sound on that, like, it's so charming. And it is following through with My Dickum. They're like, oh, you know what? These intros have been kind of like, Jim's gonna notice this, so let's do one without it, right? A nice, tidy album. I call this A tier. And then we're up to Carnage Ending. It's kind of funny how, like, Legacy of Ashes has that sort of dirty, low-end production, like, sitting between these much better balanced, but I'm not saying that's for the better necessarily. I'm just casually observing, right? Carnage Ending. I do still dig on that one. I'd be like, it's still got some of the sound that I want to hear out of Sinister. But I can hear the cracks in the facade. Odd is really starting to, like, lose the... You can kind of tell just jumping in on the mic in the middle of life is, like, maybe not the greatest thing for him. But I would call this B tier. And you would think that magic may sustain for Post-Apocalyptic Servant, because this is, fun fact, the only time in the entire stretch so far that Sinister has been the same band for 2 albums sequentially. The other closest being, like, I suppose, probably, like, Diabolical Summoning to Hate, but, -1 even then. I'm going to put this one at C tier. And it does not bring me joy to say it, but I have said enough times, like, bands that have put out albums in years starting with 19, I don't think you need to be putting out albums at this point anymore. And our last 2 entries, Syncretism, I really do like the cover on that one, but I'm like, this is a challenge, pal. I may be giving you a D tier listing here, but I didn't even have to think on it with Deformation of Holy Realms. I'm like, there's no place for this but D tier. I will throw out this much about these last couple albums. Whoever is playing guitars on them has got some fucking chops, especially on Syncretism. Like, there's some moments where I'm just like, god damn. But at this point, objectively, it's just down to, oh, well, there's cool parts scattered into the songs. Way more than we're on the order of anything like there's good, memorable songs here. Because they're just packing way too much in there. But now it's not just in the songwriting perspective. They've got all of these new sonic options with the passing of time, right? So it's just this, like, giant buffet of just, like, everything too much all at once. And I'd be like, you know what? I think it speaks volumes that a very prolific band, like, they bang albums out, like, pretty consistently, and then they just stopped in 2020, and they're still active, but they haven't done anything album-wise, and I feel like that says something. In the same nice little tidy way that the Hexen, just, by now you'd expect multiple albums, right? But no, we're done here, and so. If that is the case, then good work. I personally am not championing for any more Sinister. At this point, it's exclusively just Odd, and I don't think he's got the withal for it, so would I see them if they came to my town? I would love to, but I gotta say, good work with this last, few years on the release front. Absolutely. Keep it up, because, I think you're about done here. And you know what? we're done here. Alright, Jim Dempsey, Sinister tier list. Thank you for watching, and buckle your seatbelt. See you next time, Dempsey Dips.